Welcome, everyone. This is the Abundant Investor Podcast, and we are Beth and Christine, your hosts. We are here to show you how you can live your rich life right now with the power of an abundance mindset and tools the wealthy have used for years that are accessible to the rest of us. Things like real estate investing and using the powerful benefits of life insurance. We're so glad you're here. Now let's dive in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Abundant Investor. I'm Beth.
And I'm Christine.
And we're so happy to be joining you today. We're going to talk about our journey through the decades. We've already introduced that to you. And today we're going to really drill it down on your 20s. Okay, so for all of you 20-somethings, this one's for you.
For those with 20-somethings trying to help their growing up children.
That's right. That's right. So today we're going to start by talking off a little bit about your money mindset, where it came from, how you can manage that in a positive way. Then we're going to talk about establishing really good habits early on in your financial career, so to speak. And then we're going to give you some tips around your credit score and a few other tidbits of information that you're going to be able to use. So let's get started with our money mindset.
Yeah, so we want to enable you with these tools so that you are really setting yourself up for success through the rest of your life. I'm sure if you're in your 20s, thinking about your 50s or 60s feels really far off. But we can tell you, as those who have been through several decades already, it is so fabulous when you look back and you see that you've saved and how much that money has made for you over time if you start to set everything up and really put the scaffolding together in your 20s. And a lot of that scaffolding actually starts in your brain. It starts with how you think about money, how you think about planning for the future with money. And basically, are you open to receiving money and having abundance in your life? Because so many of us are not, we're closed off. And I know this because that was me. Largely, as a coach, I see it in a lot of my clients. And it's because we don't really talk about money as a society. And we take the beliefs that the people around us have had and we adopt those. So we're just adopting beliefs about money, how we have access to it, how flexible it is, whether we have a lot or a little, so abundance or scarcity. That's usually programming that we received very early on, really unintentionally, because we're not really thinking about this as parents. So everyone's doing the best they can, typically. And we're just imposing our beliefs onto our children. So then we grow up as young adults and we have these beliefs and we don't even know where they came from. So you might have learned to spend freely and not mind, not think it's any big deal to have a lot of outstanding credit, to have credit cards that you don't pay balances on. You might have learned to save and felt like you had to be a great saver in order to receive praise. And so you might have, we all kind of tend to have these money wounds. You might have a money wound around needing to have safety with money, that you have to have a certain amount of money to be safe, and it might be hard for you to spend it. So there are all these money mindsets. And so what I would just ask you, here's a quick exercise. Take out a notebook and write down your general beliefs around money. What does money mean to you? What's your relationship with money? What do you want from money? Can you rely on money? And what are your earliest memories of money? You and I were talking about this recently, Beth.
Right.
We have these early memories and there's a lot that is programmed in our subconscious around them. So that's the first thing that we want to really instill and share with you, is to get a frame of reference for what your money mindset is. And you can read, there are a lot of wonderful books on this. You can read so many great books. We'll be doing more education on this as we go into the future to talk about how you can reprogram your money mind if you're not excited about the current beliefs that you have. Because any belief we have is flexible and we can adjust it, and we have the power to adjust it. And that's how people make great strides in their lives, big changes, transformations. So that's the first thing we want to share with you is your money mindset. Be aware, know you can change it, be empowered to change your money mindset beliefs.
Yeah, it's so great. And it's such a great time of your life to establish that. And speaking of that, we're going to talk a little bit about habits, establishing good habits. And I want to build a framework for you to think about how sort of the buckets of money you're going to be, where you're going to be collecting your money. And I like to call it these 3 buckets. The first bucket is your taxable bucket. Okay. That's everything from your regular checking account to any investing that you're doing. That's taxable because you're getting a 1099 each year on any profit you've made in that bucket. So that's your taxable bucket. The next bucket is what we call...
So just to say, that could be something like your high yield savings account where
Yes.
you're earning interest, or
got
a
it.
brokerage account where your money, your investments there's capital gains there.
You got it. That's right. Exactly. And those are taxable because you have to pay Uncle Sam as you make profits in those accounts.
Makes sense.
So the next bucket is what we're calling tax deferred. And those buckets are what you're probably really familiar with, like your 401k, or if you're a teacher or a nurse, it's a 403b.
Mm-hmm.
But that is money that is taken out of your paycheck automatically, usually.
By choice.
And it's by choice. You pick how much you want to take out. And that money comes out before you pay taxes. So it's a tax break to you now. So you don't have to pay tax on that money. You put it into this bucket and you cannot touch that money until you're 59 and a half. It grows all of those years from your 20s up until you're about 60. And the whole time, the taxes are being deferred until you start to touch that money. And it's built really for retirement. And most companies will do some type of a company match. And that's usually between around 4 and 6%. So if you're making $100,000 a year, you're going to put 6% in. That's $6,000. Your company, if they're matching up to 6%, they'll put another $6,000 in, so that you've just saved $12,000. So that is a very good way to save money for the long term because it's automatic. You don't have to think about it, and you almost get that free match. If your company's matching, it's like free money.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that you talked about making it automatic. You just put it aside. You tell your employer, I want to have this taken out of my paycheck, put into the plan, the Fidelity, whatever plan it is, right? And then that you get used to living without that money, and you're saving it. And then when you get older, you're growing this nest egg.
Yes. And it's terrific. The downside to that tax deferred bucket is that it's deferred. So someday you're going to have to pay Uncle Sam.
I don't think we talk about that enough.
No, we don't. And if you're following the news, we're about to hopefully have a vote soon and decide what we're going to do about our deficit and everything like that. But right now, the U.S. Treasury has a deficit of 32 trillion with a T dollars. So we're also at a time in our history where we're actually at one of the lowest tax rates we've ever been at. So Christine and I talk about this a lot. You know, I'm not feeling all that confident that our tax rates are going to stay where they are because you have something, we have a massive Social Security, crisis. When Social Security was started, for every one person taking money from Social Security, there were 40 workers. Now that's 3 workers for every one person. And it's forecasted that's going to be in 10 years, only 2 to 1.
Wow.
So it's something to really think about. It's the reason why I'm talking about this is to say your 401k is a great place to store money up to your company match, but not beyond. And because you're going to have to pay taxes on that and you're not going to be able to touch that money until you're 60.
And if you're 20 now, in 40 years, who knows what our tax rate is going to be, but we think it's likely to go up.
Yes.
And the money that you have is going to be growing. So that could potentially equate to a lot of taxes.
Yes, exactly. So the third bucket we're going to talk about is tax-free, the tax-free bucket. And it's not really talked about that much. So you really have something that you probably have heard of called a Roth IRA. So a Roth IRA is funded with post-tax dollars. So you've already paid taxes on this money. And you can save up to $6,500 a year under today's IRS rules.
Love it.
So it's great. It's a great way to sock away money. The downside to that is like your 401k, you can't touch that money until you're 59 and a half.
Okay.
So it's going to grow tax deferred. And actually, when you go to take it out, it's tax free. So it's a very good vehicle. It's just Right now, $6,500 a year might seem like a lot because you're just getting started maybe in your career.
Yeah.
But that's not that much money.
Yeah.
So that's one of the downsides. And the other
you can't
downside
touch it. So what happens? What happens if I want to access that money to put my kid in college or to buy my first house?
Yeah, you can't.
There's a
big
huge
penalty,
right?
Yep. So the other option that we want to talk about is actually life insurance, which is not necessarily something people know a lot about, in that you can establish at any age you want something that we call a high cash value life insurance policy. And in this, you're going to establish this with after-tax money. So it's going to go into this tax-free bucket because you can access that money tax-free. And the great news here is that you can access it at any time for whatever reason you want.
Amazing.
So it's a really good bucket. So you have, again, just, you have your taxable, kind of what you've heard about, like Christine mentioned, your brokerage accounts, your high yield savings accounts. Good, but not great because it's taxable. You have your tax-deferred account, which is great. And we really recommend you, put money there up to your company match. It's going to grow tax-deferred, but someday you're going to have to pay the piper and pay Uncle Sam for that money. And then this third bucket is this tax-free bucket. And the Roth IRA is a great option, but it doesn't allow you to access that money. And a terrific option is this high cash value life insurance that you can put money into and access at any time.
It's actually amazing. It's called life insurance, but we're talking about it as a way to save money, invest money, and then be able to access it anytime instead of having this ceiling on it, like these qualified plans that our employers offer us. This is something we can establish independently on our own, and then have the ability to put money in and take money out. And what does that look like? Taking, how much do I have to put into it? Am I adhering to an annual amount? And then I'm also curious, how do I go about using that money?
Those are all really good questions, Christine. So the rule of thumb is that you want to plan on about probably $6,000 a year, about $500 a month would be a good sort of place to start.
Starting point.
Yeah.
And it can go way up,
and
right?
It can go up to whatever, it can go, there will be a max at some point, but it's a really high number.
Okay.
So it's based on your net worth. But as a young person, your health is good. So the cost is lower. It's,
That's a great reason to start in your 20s.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly. And the other really good reason is something called compound interest. Just like in your 401k, the earlier you start, the longer you have for that money to grow with something called compound interest. So the answer to the first question around, that's, a rule of thumb. We could talk to you specifically about your case. You can put this money aside annually for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, your whole working career. It's really going to be up to you. We can design a program for you that really meets your needs, which is really great. There's so much flexibility. There's two different types of high cash value life insurance. There's something called whole life, and there's something called an index universal life. And really based on what you're going to be using it for and what your needs and risk tolerances and all that kind of thing, we'll find that out and speak with you, and we'll design, a properly structured solution that meets all of those needs.
We can dive into the details. That it's not rocket science. It's there's another level of detail around those products and how they work and why one might be better than another. And another podcast, I think we'll have to dive into the specifics of that.
Yes, we will.
But I would say anyone that hops on a call with us to explore the options, we talk about those.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, what's really nice about what we're doing is that we're customizing it for what's important to you.
Yep.
And there's not a one size fits all solution here, but it's, really easy to implement. And, again, we're talking about building good habits here. So, we think that just getting started is half the battle.
Absolutely.
Getting educated, we're going to make it easy for you to understand what we're talking about. But, paying yourself first is a term that you're going to hear a lot throughout your life around finances. It's, you pay yourself first when you put away money in a 401k. If you have more money you can do, pay yourself first by putting some aside into a high cash value life insurance policy. We can explain how that all works in other podcasts, or if you want to set up some time to meet with us one-on-one, would be glad to do that. Yeah.
And the way that we usually recommend clients set that money aside, because we recommend typically paying the premium for that life insurance annually is to open a free checking account and use that as their storage spot, their secure spot where they keep the premium, and then they pay the premium to the life insurance company every year.
That's right.
Right. And we haven't even talked about the fact that you are creating a death benefit as well when you pay these premiums and you purchase whole life insurance.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Or an IUL. So exactly. And so, we also haven't talked about how you can use this money. So, once you have this account established and you start putting away some money into it each year, you can do these tax-free loans to yourself. So things that you were going to finance anyways, like a car, for example. Yeah. When you buy a car, you typically are going to finance that and you're paying somebody interest on that, on borrowing that money.
A dealer or a bank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can actually borrow this money from yourself, pay for the car, and then pay yourself back with interest.
Ooh, so actually make money to put back into our own bank or our policy.
You got it. That concept is called becoming your own bank. There's some really great books about it. Christine and I are experts on this because we do it ourselves. We have our own policies and we've been doing this. And so, things like, we call the 20s, we didn't even say this yet, we call the 20s the diamond decade. The stats are pretty high in terms of the number of people that get married in their 20s. The average American woman gets married when she's 28 years old, which is actually up a couple of years. It's getting older. And for a man, it's 30 for the average American. So at the end of this decade, you may find yourself in a relationship, the diamond decade, getting a diamond, moving forward and getting married. And, that is, you might have a wedding.
Right.
So if it's a big ticket. The average wedding is $30,000. Another little piece of data I just found out. So this might be a great way to save for something like a wedding. And then take a loan from it, pay for your wedding, and then pay yourself back.
And is that pretty easy? Should we let people know how easy it is to take that loan?
Yeah. You once you have your cash value established, which happens, we structure these so you have cash value almost immediately.
So awesome.
So if you deposit money in, a premium, you should have access to about 80% of that within a week.
That's amazing.
So you have access. It's a phone call to the insurance company to say, hey, I want to borrow some money for my policy. It's your money. It's your money. You can borrow. You don't have to explain why you're borrowing it, or you actually don't even have to pay yourself back. We suggest that you do so that you can use it over and over again, but you actually don't have to pay yourself back. And all the while you've taken that loan, you're actually borrowing the insurance company's money, not yours. So your underlying policy continues to grow with something called uninterrupted compound interest. It's amazing.
Amazing.
They say
it's the eighth wonder of the world.
Exactly. So there's lots of benefits to establishing these good habits young because of that compound interest, because of, getting into the habit of paying yourself first, creating a place where you can save money that you can use for anything that you want to use and be able to use that money over and over again. So some really cool stuff.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah. And the things that we like to see people using it for, can we dive into that?
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, because I think this is where it gets really juicy. Yeah. Like you said, you can use it for things that you would buy anyways, like a car. You're typically going to be taking out a loan in a lot of cases anyways. So you can be paying yourself back. And one of our favorite topics is investing in real estate. And what a wonderful way to build up your stores, your bank, if you will, being your own bank, so that when it's time to purchase real estate, you have money in your life insurance policy that you can borrow to make that down payment. Yeah. And we love real estate because it's an asset, right? So we can buy real estate, we can live in it if we choose to. And when we're a first time home buyer, there's so many great programs out there, loans that will allow you to put down a lower down payment than traditional mortgages. And you can actually, create cash flow by either house hacking and inviting other people, friends maybe, to live with you in your place, and or you buy a multifamily and you rent out one unit while you live in the other. That could pay for your mortgage. It could cash flow for you. And all the while, because the house, the real estate, whatever kind of real estate you buy is an asset, it's usually appreciating in value. And we've seen it time and time again. It's how so many of the wealthy build their wealth is through real estate. So this is a very complementary tool. And if you're in your 20s, I mean, we talk about this. We talked about it in What I Wish I Knew When I Was 22, that free masterclass that we'll make available in the show notes. We loved investing in real estate when we were younger, and we wish we held on to it and continue to buy more real estate at that time. I mean, we'd both be, totally rolling in the dough right now.
We needed each other when we were in our 20s. So we're trying to.
And here we are. Yeah. Here we are doing it. We're doing it now.
Yeah, teaching everybody what we wish we knew when we were in our 20s. And so, I mean, what we're talking about here is really building generational wealth by using tools that the wealthy have used for decades. And that is life insurance and real estate. Two tools that are available really to anybody, not just the super wealthy.
Right.
And we want to teach you how to do that so that you can build generational wealth and have that financial freedom that everybody is so looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so widely sought. That's a good point, Christine. We talked a little bit about real estate. One of the things that is really critical in buying real estate is your credit score. And that's another piece of information that a lot of people don't know about. They don't learn about it at school. It's not highly talked about.
Hardly ever.
Yeah. I mean, people should know their credit score, like right off the tip of their tongue. And they don't.
Yes.
They don't. And they should know the impact that a credit score has on their ability to borrow money. Right? Yeah.
And there's various factors that go into your credit score. And I think a misconception is it's based on one or two things. And sometimes people have it wrong.
That's right. Right. That's right. So Christine mentioned that we did this free masterclass called What I Wish I Knew When I Was 22. We're going to make it available. But in there, we really dive deep into credit score. And I guess, three things that I would say about your credit score. One is that you want to establish it early, as young as you can. If you're listening to this and you have young children, you can start their credit really at any time. They don't have to be 18 or anything like that. So you want to start building credit as soon as you possibly can.
And the really easy way to do that, would you agree with me, is to have them as a co-signer on your credit card.
Just add them to them.
Add them to your credit line. They don't even have to know.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I don't think I've told my kids that we've done this.
Yeah. Oh, now the secret's out.
I hope they're not listening to this podcast.
So you want to establish the credit. You want to get as big of a credit line as possible, which may feel a little counterintuitive. And it's a little bit scary because you have this big line of credit.
Yeah.
The third most important piece is then you don't use it.
Okay.
So you
$20,000 credit line does not mean head to the mall and
start shopping. Yes. So you want to, three things. You want to establish that credit as young as you possibly can. You want to get as big a credit line as you can.
Okay.
And then you don't want to use that.
Okay.
You really want to keep your utilization well below 30%. And
below 30%.
The utilization part of that credit is really the biggest bucket in terms of how they come up with your score.
Okay.
So that's the most important thing. You really want to keep it ideally below 10%.
Okay.
To get your highest score possible. And your scores range from 500, or maybe I don't think you can go below 500. Maybe you can.
It would be hard.
And the maximum is 800.
Right.
So you can even go a little bit over 800. So you want to get a score that's considered excellent, somewhere in the 750 to 850 range.
And if you want to know what your score is, we like Credit Karma. It's a free website. We're not affiliated at all.
Yes.
You can go onto Credit Karma and you can find out what your credit score is. And I recently signed up for it, and now I love that I get notifications from it when my score goes up or down.
It's so nice. It feels really good. It tells you if you've paid off all your bills. You get a little, it's like getting a report card.
Like a pat on the back. Like, you've done a good job.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. So look for in our show notes the link to our free masterclass. As I said, we go into even more detail about that, but we'd be remiss if we're talking to people in their 20s about finances without talking about the importance of your credit score.
100%. Absolutely.
So,
and consolidating debt. If you have, I think it's worth mentioning too, if you have debt, maybe you've left college with student loans, or you had a credit card and you weren't paying the full balance every month, how do you consolidate those? You look for offers among credit card companies where you can consolidate all your credit cards into fewer or just one, and with a lower interest rate on it typically. And you can totally negotiate. So call up your credit card company, ask them for a lower rate, ask them for a payoff plan. Anyone you have bills with, right?
Right.
And consolidate that debt and get a handle on it. That's the first thing. I think we just jumped in assuming that there is no big debt like that. But if there is, you want to take care of that.
Absolutely. You can also use your life insurance policy to pay off credit if you needed to do that as well. And we could again talk to you about your specific situation and build a way to help you budget, a way to help you save, and a way to help you get out of that if that's the situation that you're in. So, Christine, if somebody were to want to know about maybe like what would be a good book that they could read about financing and
money mindset, or like, we have so many of them that we really like. The couple money mindset ones that I really like are Happy Pocket Full of Money.
So good.
Jen Sincero, who has a couple bestsellers, has You Are a Badass at Making Money. And then books on, like, I think though, like if I had to pick one book, a baseline book about learning about investing and the power of compound interest, the power of buying assets. We love Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Hands down.
It's like a Bible.
Yeah. Everybody should read it or listen to it on Audible or
bestseller. It's been out for decades, and for good reason. It stayed a bestseller. So that is one of the things we most recommend. And it's in relatively simple terms, and it's a really great story. If you don't know the story, it's about a young man growing up, and he had his dad who was more of the poor dad, and then he had a rich dad. The rich dad was a friend's father who taught him about real estate investing and investing in general. And it lays out the basics.
It's really great. It's really great. And it's, I think sometimes we can get into this herd mentality that everybody needs to just, go to college, get a job, work for another person, save your money in your 401k. And we think that there's a brighter future in store for many of you if you want to think about outside that box a little bit and do things that are a little bit different. And a really good thing to think about is using real estate to create some financial security and some financial freedom. And so you can do the things that you really love to do. Maybe that's starting a new business or working for yourself, or
which Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about too, right? He talks about being an employee versus having your own business. And maybe to start, what I recommend with a lot of my coaching clients is to start something on the side. Find what you're interested in, start a little business. And you can start to work for yourself, because that's part of that financial freedom and general lifestyle freedom that I think we all really crave.
That's so true. That's so true.
And I feel like this generation knows it more than we did when we were in our 20s.
They do, which is really, which is great.
You guys are pretty smart.
Yeah, we like it. We like it. So I would say, a couple of things. One is that those are great books. Start by reading those books. Follow us on Instagram or on TikTok. We're going to be providing a lot of helpful tips.
Yeah, not for the dances, but for the tips.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really want to see us
maybe
dance.
Once in a while.
Yeah, and then we also are going to include here a link to sign up for a free 30-minute consultation. Because really, as I mentioned before, it's really going to be an opportunity for us to get to know you and to create solutions that really fit you and your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
Think of us like the architect. We'll take your specific needs and desires and design something for you that will set you up for success.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll work with you. If you decide to work with us, then we'll work with you ongoing. So we're always here. We want to be
like your money moms.
Your money moms. That's us.
That's great. All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Abundant Investor Podcast and learned something new. We would love to hear from you. And if you did get something from this episode, please subscribe and rate this podcast so more people can find it and live their rich lives too. And remember, an abundant mindset means there's always plenty to go around, and through giving, we receive.